Greetings, fellow treasure hunters. Jacob Wile here,
And Tiki too.
and welcome back to Discovering DuckTales. In anticipation of the upcoming reboot, we here at So You Want to Be Imagineer are dusting off the original series in this brand new vlog. It's not ponytails or cottontails, it's DuckTales.
Ooh, I'm a ghost.
And tonight we have Hotel Strangeduck.
Jacob, how appropriate is it that I would say this is probably the episode that most kids think in their minds is like the Halloween episode of DuckTales, especially because of a visual example I'll get to in just a moment. But how appropriate is it that, at the very least, the first truly spooky episode of DuckTales is episode 13?
I was about to point that out. Yeah, I wonder if that was intentional or just a very amazing coincidence.
I would really, really like to think it's intentional, Jacob. I would really like to think so. That would make me happy. Anyways, uh, Jacob, this episode, I believe, is pretty famous for a lot of fans, including myself, who grew up with a VHS tape in particular. There's it, right there, right there. Oh, yeah. Jacob, this is honestly one of the episodes of DuckTales I've seen the most. And this is very much probably just nostalgia clouding my mind, but honestly, Jacob, this is by far my favorite episode of the 13 we've seen so far. This episode was just really, really well done, well paced, had a great mystery, had a lot of good spooky atmosphere to it. I think it really holds its own as kind of like a Halloween special. I mean, it's not necessarily a Halloween special, but it's one that you can put on a loop with, other creepy cartoons for like a Halloween party or something. It's really good. It's really solid, I think. I liked it a lot.
I have to agree. I mean, it's kind of hard to top Armstrong, though.
Yeah, I don't know. I think let's just kind of say they kind of stand toe to toe with each other. I think both of them are fantastic episodes for sure.
Okay, who directs this? Who directed this one?
Okay, let me see. This episode, I believe, is another Zaslav special, Jacob, of course. Let me just go back just to verify that really quick. Yeah, this episode's Alan Zaslav, and it was written by Richard Merwin. And Richard Merwin also wrote Machka's Shadow War, which was another kind of clever episode. So yeah, and Machka's Shadow War also kind of used the supernatural elements in a way, and this is kind of Richard Merwin. Maybe I don't know. Maybe as we track him as we go through some of the episodes he's written, I feel like that might be a running motif. In this episode, my God, man, he really gets to play around with it a lot.
It starts off simple, then escalates until a finale.
I'm just gonna point out like the creepiest moment in this episode for me, which kind of genuinely got me a little unsettled, and it's the moment where Webby and Webby and
Beakley?
Mrs. Beakley. I'm sorry, Webby and Beakley. They throw the powder on the ghost, right? And then you can see the ghost's outline. And Dragon, I don't know. It's just I'm sorry, Jacob. I keep calling you Dragon. I'm tired. I'm sorry.
It's fine.
Oh God. No. So Jacob, the outline of the ghost, in the powder. I don't know what it is. It's just the way it's animated. It's just so creepy to me. The way it moves in a very like unnaturalistic kind of way through the frame and kind of just scurries off. I don't know. That was like really creepy for me. Did you catch that?
Yeah, I didn't notice that. Although I thought I was like, hey, look, it's running mashed potatoes. Okay.
Like I said, for me, it's just something to do with the actual animation on it that really caught my eye. Kind of the way it was moving in an unnatural sort of way. But I digress.
I know something funny though. I just
Yo.
noticed something. This image actually shows Scrooge with his hat, and then it's like the entire episode he never has his hat on.
Also, one other image I want to show you before we dive into the thick of things here is, yeah. I know this isn't directly related to this episode, but I feel like it's very much kind of like in the same in the same spirit as the comics with some of the adventures they get into.
Indeed, seems that way. Plus, it kind of reminds me they were able to get away with Scrooge being strangled to unconsciousness.
Right.
I mean, let that sink in there, man. They got to show us off screen and in shadow, but still, they managed to show Scrooge getting strangled.
Okay, so let's dive into it, Jacob. Let's take a seat at the table. All right. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this episode, Jacob. A lot of moving parts. Where do you want to start with it?
Well, first of all, let me just say this. It's strange that Scrooge doesn't really believe in ghosts. I mean, a man staying alive for 400 years due to gold power, a witch, and robots are perfectly acceptable, but ghosts and genies are acceptable. But ghosts, no.
Yeah, that is one of the. I will admit that the skepticism on Scrooge's part, especially after we've seen all these, in the first 12 episodes. My God, the man has gone through so much already in the series that you would think all skepticism would be out the window.
Like I said, it could be due in part to the way they were chronologically aired, because they could be produced out of order.
Right. We're just going on the Wikipedia list, which I may or may not be completely accurate. I don't know. That list, I believe, is the airing order.
Yeah, it's the airing order, not necessarily production order.
Right. Exactly. So
who knows at this point? You might not have seen all this mystical mumbo jumbo stuff.
Continuity be damned.
But still, it's like even with the continuity and if it is take place after all those episodes, you should still like genies, witches. No, those are fine, but ghosts, that's completely out of the question.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, Jacob. The ghost that is haunting this place, Ludwig von Strangeduck. Jacob, it's not just me that thinks this guy bears a little bit more than a passing resemblance. Like, he's got to be some sort of ancestor of Von Drake, right?
Well, he kind of looks somewhat of Von Drake, that's for sure.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, especially when you see him later in the episode, it's like I think that's kind of what they're going for. It's like they don't explicitly say it out loud or anything. They don't, they don't directly mention Von Drake, but I'm like, yeah, I kind of think I see what you're hinting at, Disney, and I like it. I'm kind of buying what you're selling.
But Von Drake is kind of related to Scrooge in a way. I mean, I don't know how he's connected to it all.
Well, if anything else, like maybe not even continuity wise, just if anything else, it's just kind of a fun nod to the name. The Ludwig von
Strangeduck.
Yeah. And also kind of, a visual homage as well. So if anything else, I think it's at least kind of got that going for it. We can.
I'm willing to admit that, but I don't think considering they don't put out the familial relation, because technically they are related in a way, because Ludwig von Drake is also one of Donald's uncles.
Yeah. Oh, God, there's so many uncles in this family, man.
Uncle Scrooge, Uncle Donald.
I don't know. Something's aloof here.
A big family.
Yeah, I guess. Anyways.
Like Scrooge had like two sisters, like a brother and a sister, I believe.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we have how does Scrooge get this mansion? Is it inherited to him or what?
I think he just buys it, and like you said, it was a bargain.
Oh, that's right. It was a bargain because of the old trope of like, oh, it's haunted, so I got it. I got it dirt cheap. Greedy. So
I think he bought it. He bought it with the intentions of turning it into a hotel to make profit.
So in a way, this episode is basically the closest we'll ever see to a DuckTales episode of The Shining.
Obviously, without elevators full of blood.
Well, yeah, obviously, but it's still got that kind of like haunted hotel, and everyone's slowly getting more and more paranoid going for it.
Indeed, it does.
So you know what I like about this episode is that it is very much an ensemble for all the characters. Sadly, Launchpad's not in the mix. We haven't had an episode with Launchpad in a couple, so I'm sure he'll pop up soon. But we get a good we get good doses of Beakley, Webby, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, Scrooge, of course, and most importantly, we have Duckworth, Jacob. Oh my God. Duckworth, I think, is he's quickly becoming, like, I already kind of inherently knew this going into this recap vlog, having, like, watched the episodes of DuckTales that I've watched, which is most of them. It's just been a long time. But Duckworth has always been a favorite of mine, especially because of his dry, sardonic kind of sense of humor. And I don't know, Jacob, just certain moments, like one in particular that actually got my, that I actually had to pause the video and write down was, well, I'm afraid only hotel employees may lower the drawbridge, sir.
We lower the drawbridge, sir.
What I love about Duckworth is that he just takes his job so seriously, and like, you give the man a ton of respect for that. You know what I mean? It's like he's like the ultimate employee. He's like the ultimate, like, employee of the month. Try employee of the millennium, sir.
I mean, very few people can put up with Scrooge and what goes on in his life.
But that's another fun part of Duckworth, is him kind of like reacting to all the situation that Scrooge kind of puts him in, and still being a loyal employee to Scrooge at the same time, and never having a bad word to say about Scrooge.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, testament to his character. I mean, few people will be able to put up with that.
Yeah, so I really love Duckworth, man. Duckworth is really growing on me. I can't wait to see more of him as we get to more of these episodes.
We need a spinoff of Duckworth.
Yes. Maybe like a spinoff of Duckworth. Like, I don't know. Like, what if Duckworth was the butler to Darkwing Duck? Because we have Launchpad as Darkwing's pilot. I could see Duckworth just up and quitting Scrooge McDuck, and then going to Darkwing as his butler.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
By the way, we still don't know if we're getting Duckworth in the reboot or not, do we?
I don't know. I don't know if that's been confirmed or not.
I don't think they've announced a voice for him or anything like that, so.
He might be. I don't think it's been confirmed.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see him pop up. It might be a couple episodes or so. I don't know. I'm not sure. Anyways. Okay, so the two villains of this piece are the Duchess and Benzino Gasolini.
Well, I'd say the main villain was actually the guy who was the lab assistant.
I guess so, but I guess these two are more kind of like the Scooby-Doo red herrings, you know what I mean? It's like they're more kind of like staying at the hotel and being like really sketchy, and you suspect them most of the time. Especially Gasolini. It's like Gasolini is just like, I don't know, I love the design of him. I like the voice, although, like, frankly, it's kind of an Italian stereotype, Jacob, but I'm an Italian myself, and I can laugh at myself, so so I appreciate it. I take no offense to it personally.
This kind of does play like a good Scooby-Doo episode.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I like about it, because it's like Gasolini and the Duchess are totally like the people that you would suspect, whereas the person that's actually behind it is the person that you'd least suspect.
Someone you haven't even seen or mentioned throughout the entire episode.
Right, or maybe even like just briefly heard mentioned or whatnot. Okay.
Which turns out to be the lab assistant for the Duchess's brother, movie from Strangeduck.
Yeah. And like I said, bearing more than a passing resemblance to to Ludwig von Drake.
But I must admit, the whole usage of the whole invisible spray was used to pretty clever effects.
Yeah, it was. I really like that, right? And
my favorite part was that when the nephews made the bridge invisible, then it came up, and then the lab assistant ran into it while it looked like it was down.
Yeah, a lot of good creative visuals with that. Another good thing about this episode, just animation wise, is the lighting. Just in general, when the show has has kind of dark atmosphere, can have good shadows and whatnot.
Like this,
Uh,
like the famous scene of the staircase of them going down the stairs.
yes, the staircase. Yes, yes. I'm glad
In
you
the title
mentioned that.
sequence.
Right, right. It's one of the most iconic bits of the title sequence outside of the whole, like, diving into the money bin.
And the grabbing of the lamp, which was in the last episode.
Sure, sure. So yeah, Jacob, that is kind of fun. Like as we're going through, I imagine like the first 20 or so episodes, like we're seeing all these little clips. Like we got the robot, the robot robbers thing where they're high-fiving each other. We got that a few episodes ago. So that's fun. That's fun because like that theme song, my God, Jacob, they never changed that theme song. It's so ingrained in our head. And all those images, it's just like, yep, that's DuckTales. Like that is quintessential DuckTales right there.
It is pretty interesting how they do all that. I mean, I'm sure the whole walking down the stairs and lighting. I don't know if that required like multiple paintings or just very clever usage of overlays.
Yeah, I mean, of course nowadays it would just be done all digitally, but that's what I really respect about this show is this was all hand drawn. This was like Disney, like pure hand drawn Disney right here, which is which makes every episode to me even the more even the kind of somewhat lackluster episodes, which have been few and far between, but there's been a couple in the 13 we've talked about. But even those, even something like the Suckus episode, Sarkis, more like Suckus, even in his episode, you still just got that great hand-drawn animation, and you've got the the good characters and everything, and the classic Disney characters. So it's all just such a fun throwback.
I want to say props to the animators at TMS Entertainment for this one.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Do you think we should keep track of the animators too, or that should be like a passing thing?
Honestly, I don't really have a big reference point for that. I'm just kind of, let's just keep track of writers and directors for now, because or else it'll just, I don't know. That's kind of too many things to jumble, if you don't mind.
I know.
Jumble.
I'm just saying, like, props to them for like all the impressive effects on this one.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Let's see. I mean, I'm trying to think. This episode's like just jam packed full of cool sight gags and spooky imagery. It kind of feels like a video game in a way. It kind of feels like a classic like Super Nintendo Capcom video game.
They should have been here instead of Transylvania in the DuckTales game.
Yes. Oh my god. Yeah. I co-sign on that. Absolutely, Jacob. That would be wonderful. And I could totally see the invisible paint being a power-up.
Sneak past your enemies.
Right. Stuff like that. Yeah. Oh, so good.
We're fighting an invisible boss.
But seriously, this whole episode does have kind of like the feel of something out of Castlevania. I don't know. It does. It's just I love the gothic atmosphere. I love the environment. It's not an episode where we have to stay in the mansion. We get to explore. We get to see the characters out of their comfort zone, and we get to see a lot of the characters out of their comfort zone, which is always nice.
And plus, in the end, Scrooge still finds a way to make a profit out of all of it.
Of course. Got to love a bargain. God, every time I do Scrooge McDuck, Alan Young just rolls over in his grave just a little bit. I'm awful at it.
I'm not very good at it either.
Anyways,
That's why I don't try. That's why I don't try on camera.
So yeah, like I said, it's mostly I am noticing, Jacob, like stuff like we do see the shadowy skeleton, and that is kind of like what I showed you with the comic strip. You know what I mean? So like I said, it's not directly adapted from any one particular comic, but there is a lot of different visual influences, I would say, from the comics. It's a good mix.
The comic mostly serves as an inspiration for the series more than a direct adaptation.
You know what else is a freaky moment, Jacob? Is the moment where the axe just levitates and then chops through the middle of the table right here.
It's like, what do you desire? Or you.
I mean, don't you agree? It's like if you saw that in a live action horror movie, just an axe axe, just a big axe flying into the middle of a table. Like, that would be a good shock moment right there. I don't know. I just think this episode did kind of build up some of its scares pretty well. And, of course, it's a kid show, so it's not anything that's going to keep me up all at night or anything like that. But, for what it's worth, I could see myself, and I do have memories of myself, in fact, watching this little sucker right here and, getting really drawn into some of this atmosphere as a really little kid. This VHS, I imagine, probably came out around 88 or so. And so I was probably really little. I probably rented this. I don't think I even owned this, but I do remember renting it. I remember renting a bunch of DuckTales VHSs when I was a kid. That was kind of my big exposure to the show, to tell you the truth, because we never really had the Disney Channel growing up. But I digress.
It's probably before it became like a package available basic thing. Like it was a premium channel back then, I think.
Yes. And I actually remember, like, I was about like 7 or 8 years old when Disney Channel became a package, and I was super excited to finally get it because I knew stuff like DuckTales and Darkwing Duck was on it, and that's mostly why I wanted the Disney Channel. And then Jacob, I turn on the Disney Channel for the first time as a kid, and I watch Snoopy Come Home, which is one of the most depressing things that the Peanuts has ever produced. So yeah, that was a wonderful start to the Disney Channel, right? For the kids.
For kids.
Just a little girl dying and everything, and Charlie Brown having to have his heart taken out because of this impossible decision that Snoopy has to make. Oh man. That Sherman Brothers song, man.
Sherman Bros.
Okay.
Who needs the bare necessities when you've got that? They didn't even do the bare necessities, so never mind.
Ooh, I want to be like you. Ooh. One nitpick, Jacob. Huey, Dewey, and Louie, when they're in identical bellhop uniforms, does not help the whole, like, not being able to tell the characters apart and them not having a personality between the three of them.
I think I do notice that, and I think a future episode actually makes fun of that. Like I remember I remember an episode that comes on later where they're all dressed up in similar garb and they each get their names confused.
That's funny. I appreciate that.
I don't know which one it is, but even they begin to wait, am I you or are you Louie?
Okay, you know what, Jacob? If that becomes a running thing on the show, and that really starts to become like a running gag, then I'll be a lot more okay with this whole thing of like these kids just don't have a personality. There's no distinct things to distinguish them. But I can totally buy into it if they start making fun of themselves for it.
I think I've only seen it in that particular one episode, but they did acknowledge that.
Sure.
Or even they got confused over who they were.
I mean, just spitballing here, I would have liked to see, one of the characters in this episode is a little bit more skeptical of the ghost than the other one. And one of them is a little more scared of the ghost. So if we would have just known, who was more skeptical and who was more scared, I would probably guess that Louie was the one who was more scared and Huey was the one who was more skeptical, just based on, Huey being the leader and whatnot. But I don't know. What do I know, Jacob? What do I know?
Maybe we'll see the reboot.
Who knows? Yeah, but that's about all I've got to say about this episode, Jacob. Like I said, I have a lot of fond memories for this. I'm actually surprised this has never come up for Haunted Holiday Hijinks. This might be one of the things. There's actually a big competing list of stuff that we want to do for Haunted Holiday Hijinks, but this might be one of the things I'll throw on the list for sure. It's not Halloween, but it's definitely fits the mold of a creepy special. So, let's see. Any final thoughts on this episode, Jacob?
I can't really think of anything else to add, other than to think of what's next.
Okay, well, what's next is the lost crown of Genghis Khan. Khan!
Gone!
And this is loosely based on the Carl Barks story of the same name. I will definitely go ahead and take the initiative to pull up some screen shares of the comic this was based on when we talk about this episode, so we can kind of observe some of the origins of this. This was what?
And can we just say that it's like the most badass title we've had so far?
I would say so. Yeah. This was another Alan Zaslov special, directed by Alan Zaslov, written by Anthony Adams, and I want to say this is Anthony Adams' first episode. It's getting hard to keep. Yeah, it's the first time that Anthony Adams is working on an episode, so we'll see how he does. But I would say at this point, Alan Zaslov is kind of like a rock solid, like, he's definitely the most reliable director that they have on board. But like we said, this is just kind of like going through these episodes as if we're watching them for the first time, so that's kind of like, it'll be fun to see how the main creative force changes over time, over the course of the show, and different people like I know Steve Clark has a huge run of episodes coming up as well. So, it's mostly Steve Clark, David Block, and Alan Zaslov. Anyways, I'm getting, and then Michael Keyes, Richard Marin. There's a bunch of different names for the writers as well, Jacob. Just a lot of fun semantics to keep track of, yada, 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 so on and so forth. All right. I think that's about it, Jacob. Take us out.
All right. Well, tonight's adventure has come to an end, but be sure to join us next time on Discovering DuckTales.
A woo-hoo. Well, I'm afraid only hotel employees may lower the drawbridge, sir.